All right, welcome everybody. This is the newest installment of the Regal Podcast. Bit of a change for you today because, as you can see, I'll be the one hosting, and Jordan, your usual host, will actually be the interviewee today, and we're going to find out a bit more about him. So, Jordan, how are you, mate? You doing well?
I am fantastic, thank you, Harry. How are you?
I'm great. Can't be happier. Can't complain at all. So, for those the people who don't know you, I'm sure obviously they've listened to other videos, but you haven't really talked about yourself. You've always kind of been putting the focus on other people and getting the messages and lessons to learn from them. So I want to know a bit more about you to begin with, for the audience. What is your origin story? Where do you come from? Like what brought you to where you are now? Who are you?
So I was born and raised in a very, very quiet village, or maybe a town, a push environment. And for the last 5-6 years, for example, I've lived on a main road that literally has a curry house, a shop, and then like 2 other houses on it. So there's nothing around. There's very few people, or if there are people, it's the same kind of people. So that's where I've sort of come from. And my kind of journey in like the entrepreneurial world started when I was doing my A-levels. So I believe it was my lower sixth. So when I was year 12, I was struggling for money because I was a student, and I was obviously kind of living off the allowance my mum gave me for school lunches and to do what I want to do, basically. And that obviously wasn't fun. I wanted to be able to choose when I go out, especially because I lived in a village and I needed to get a 40-minute bus ride to the nearest town to actually do anything. So that requires money. That requires me to have that freedom. So at that point, I actually started as a freelance copywriter. So I was literally just providing my services on a super, super cheap rate because I was just starting out. I didn't know what I was doing. And yeah, I was providing copywriting services as a freelancer. I made a decent bit of money from that, and that gave me enough to have the freedom to travel a little bit around my sort of local area and give me a bit more freedom to go on more nights out, which is what I was mostly interested in at that point when I first started uni. And that kind of gave me the freedom that I wanted at that point. And then it was kind of start of last year, and that point forward, I was kind of then becoming more and more interested in actually running my own business and not just doing freelance work or just general entrepreneurship. I wanted to actually start, run, and manage overall my own registered business. And sort of through discussions with you, brief discussions with you, and discussions with my other friends, and kind of just like sitting there thinking about it and actually coming to terms with what I wanted, I was then kind of arrived on, why don't I start a marketing agency? I've got the skills because I've been doing copywriting for like 3 years at that point. I've got the experience because, again, the copywriting side of it, and I've been learning from a ton of great people, Jason Capital, Craig Ballantyne, just to name a few. And I've just kind of been learning the skills I need to basically run a business for like the last 2 years. So with all of that combined, I was kind of like, well, why don't I start a marketing agency? And then that's kind of how my marketing agency, Regal Marketing, was born. And I've been running that since July last year. And I've been really enjoying it. I've had a lot of ups, a lot of downs. I've been learning a lot. And yeah, I've been really enjoying it so far. And the kind of key thing for me with Regal Marketing is that it's giving me the freedom to actually, complete freedom to choose what I do when I do it. With freelancing, I was very limited to basically doing what the client wants me to do, whereas my own business, my own marketing agency gives me a bit more freedom to choose. And it also gives me more of an opportunity to leave a legacy, because at the end of the day, freelancing, again, I'm a part, like one freelancer as part of a platform, whereas with Regal Marketing, I am the driving force of Regal Marketing, which is just super powerful for my legacy. And lastly, it helps me to have more of an impact on the individuals that I actually work with, which is just another thing that is super important to me, and also a contributing factor to leaving the legacy I want. So
Right,
that's kind
awesome.
of my point.
No, carry on. Sorry.
Oh no, that's all. Anyway, that's my journey up until this point, and looking forward to see what happens next.
All right, great. It sounds like a fucking awesome journey. I just want to know, is there any moment in particular you can remember? Because lots of people have the idea that they want to start their own business. Lots of people go, or maybe the 9-to-5 life isn't for me. but you're one of the few people, the one of the 1% or whatever, who have actually had kind of the balls to turn around and say, no, I am going to take this out on my own. I am going to take this risk. I am going to start my own company and I'm going to go for it. So do you think there's one particular moment you can talk to as to why you had so much more motivation than other people to start your own business and go for it? Or why you just didn't care about the risk when other people would kind of run scared from it?
See, a lot of entrepreneurs actually talk about, like you've just said, one big defining moment that basically makes them want to switch from how they are to how they want to be. And I don't actually think I had one big defining moment. I sort of had a few bigger moments littered with a general overall experience that's kind of led me down this path.
Okay.
So my first kind of experience in terms of moving away from the 9 to 5 would have been when I actually got a summer job just before I came to university, actually. So at this point, I was doing my freelance work and I was doing my A-levels at that point, and I was doing my summer job. And I hated the summer job. I really enjoyed the freelance work, and I also hated my A-levels. And I've kind of noticed that the things that the A-levels and the job have in common is that I have to basically work to somebody else's schedule, and basically I get given a set of tasks to do, and then I just have to do them. I don't get a chance to be creative with what I do. I don't get a chance to actually put my stamp on something. And I think that is the main reason why I just hated both of those experiences. So I had the push factors of those two being awful experiences, and then the pull factor of, well, freelancing gives me a lot more freedom. It still didn't give me the freedom to the extent that I wanted, like I kind of touched on before, but I had both of those factors working for me. And in terms of me specifically starting a business, it's very much, for me, it was actually having a lack of money, not just growing up, but even while I was at university. Because as you know, I spend money as soon as it comes in. Like I am awful at saving. I always have been. So the solution to that is I either need to get good at saving or I need to make more money. And at the end of the day, when you look at the graduate job market right now, especially with the recession and Brexit and coronavirus, you know, students are getting paid pretty much fuck all to do jobs that they shouldn't be doing, considering you've got a degree. So at that point, it was actually at that point when I had little to no money because I overspent massively. I wasn't interested in getting a job because of my bad experiences and the state of the job market right now. And then I was actually meant to pay my rent for my house last year. And I was laying in bed and I was like, okay, the rent's due. It's this amount. I can't remember the exact amount it was. I think it was something like 1,500. And then I checked my bank account and I had a panic attack. I was like, shit, I don't have enough. I don't have enough to make rent. And I started freaking out for a second. I don't have enough money to make rent. And then I kind of looked in my other bank accounts and I did have enough money, but I think it left me with something ridiculous, like £15 a week to live on. And that's partly because student loan isn't enough, partly because I spend money like anything and can't save for shit, and partly because I just wasn't making any money. Like I had some money saved up from my freelance work, but it wasn't enough to live on for any length of time. So at that point, it was kind of like, well, getting a job sucks. I have no money. I want freedom, which is then why the job sucks. So why don't I start a business? Because then I get freedom. If I do a good job, / when I do a good job, because I've got that experience and knowledge, I have the money. And then from there, I can kind of just live life how I want to, rather than being told what to do all the time, like I have been at A-levels in my job and now at uni. And it's just kind of the dream for me, really.
All right, great. So you touched on it already. You talked about your legacy. You talked about the impact you want to make, and what you want to do. So if I was to kind of ask you for like a 5-minute soundbite, so don't talk for like an hour and a half, just go for it. Don't have to be like super technical, and make sure it's the perfect phrase that your PR guy's happy with. We're not going to hold you to it. Don't worry. We're not going to judge you. But what kind of impact do you want to have? Like, who do you want to affect? How do you want to affect them? What do you want your legacy to be?
So as I've kind of told you, my story already is obviously I'm a young guy and I don't want to get a job for various reasons, and I want to have freedom and I want to have money. So that's kind of my goal, to help other young entrepreneurs, basically young entrepreneurs the same age as me or a similar age to me, who have the ambition and the drive to start a business to really make something of themselves outside of the classic 9 to 5 job kind of market, outside of the you're going to stay in university until the day you die teaching PhD students, or anything like that, basically. So my main goal and the main legacy I want to build is basically helping young entrepreneurs find the confidence and giving them the ability to grow and build their own legacies. So I suppose you could almost say, if you wanted a direct quote, it's almost a legacy building legacy. And that's kind of what gives me satisfaction, like being able to take a young, ambitious entrepreneur who doesn't have a clue what the fuck they're doing and transform them into the next generation of super successful entrepreneurs.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, so if in 100 years' time, or let's say 1,000 years' time, people are talking about Jordan Lewis, what do you want to be that one phrase? Like for Julius Caesar, it's the fact that he conquered Rome. It's the fact that I came, I saw, I conquered, the Veni Vidi Vici. Do you know what I mean? People are synonymous with one moment, with one big lasting impact. What if you can fast forward into 1,000 years? What do you want to be remembered for?
If I had to be known for one thing, like my absolute perfect vision would basically be to be known as at least one of the fathers, or at this point, I suppose, like great grandfathers of what would be called modern entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship now compared to even 50 years ago is drastically different. And I would love to be considered one of the pivotal figures in basically creating generations upon generations of entrepreneurs, like digital entrepreneurs specifically, because that's the direction it's going. And I would love to be known as almost one of the sources of the knowledge, the experience, the success of this new generation of entrepreneurs.
Okay, so you want to be the godfather. You want to be that guy
Essentially.
who just, the pivotal moment in history when it comes to entrepreneurship was when Jordan fucking Lewis decided he's going to open up a laptop, start typing, start producing content, start working with clients and transforming them. Okay,
Yeah,
great.
exactly.
Well, I do wish you the best. That's a big fucking goal and I'm sure you're going to succeed, and I fucking wish you the best of it. So moving, completely changing lanes now. I saw some of your content earlier today. I don't know if anyone else has seen it yet. So just for anyone who hasn't seen it, it was on the topic of the law of reciprocity. To anybody who doesn't know who I am and what I do, I've got my own company as well, part of the Regal empire. It's Regal Confidence. And what I do is I help people with mindset, attraction, and basically trying to be able to be social. So I help with social engineering and dating and business, and friendships, social circles, etc. One of the things I've always taught, and one of the most successful videos that I'm really looking forward to releasing that's coming out in about 2 weeks' time, is good guys versus nice guys versus bad boys, who actually wins. And one of the things I make sure I do is I absolutely slag off nice guys. I make it very clear to all of them that I do not want any of my clients, anybody who takes my advice, to be a nice person. And I go into that why, and I talk about you want to be a good person, not a nice person. Where do you think this kind of idea of you don't particularly want to be nice to people because you get walked all over and you come across as a bit insincere and soft, how do you think that kind of mirrors up with the law of reciprocity when you're doing nice things for people, hoping that you can get something nice back from them? Is that not kind of being a nice person?
No, because a nice person, generally speaking, does things without any. A nice person basically does something regardless of whether or not they are going to get anything back at all. And they basically end up, and they make that clear as well in the interaction. So they say, I'm going to do this for you, and I literally don't want anything back. And in fact, they actually discourage people from giving back to them. And then as a result, they spend their entire life doing stuff for free. And by, with people who have more malicious intent, they actually then end up getting walked over, they end up getting used, they end up getting scammed. And that's basically the biggest downsides, at least from a business perspective. And from a relationship perspective, as you kind of said, it's at the very least unattractive to most women. And I think the key is to basically be a good guy. So have your morals and have your principles. And in terms of the law of reciprocity or reciprocation, there's nothing wrong with giving something first, but give something with the intention of asking for something in return. That's the key difference. Like, you don't need to always have a give and take relationship, but always be prepared to ask for something for the value you've provided. So don't just provide value for the sake of providing value in terms of, let's say, content. I don't create daily content giving tips just for the sake of doing it. I give that value so that I can then give more value in DMs, so that I can get people on a call and give more value, so that they are more likely to then want to give me value back in return. That's the end goal, and that's the difference between what I would call a nice guy and a good guy.
Okay, great. So just to be clear, just in case somebody hears that and kind of misunderstands slightly, and correct me if I'm misunderstanding you. What I'm taking from it is there's kind of an important mindset you have to have when it comes to the law of reciprocity, which is you are doing nice things for people. You are doing nice things for people because you think it's a good thing to do, because they're in line with your values, your morality, etc. But equally, you're not kind of doing it going, I hope one day they'll do something nice back, and kind of just wishing they would work out for themselves. You're doing something nice. And when it comes to a time where they can help you out, you are being confident and charming enough to be able to turn around and say, hey, mate, do you mind doing me a favor? And it's not like calling in a chick going, oi, I helped you last week, so you can help me out now. It's more a case of you being nice to people because you're a good person, but equally having the confidence and the mindset where you're able then to ask for favors in return, or you just know that it karmically it's going to balance out. It's not from an insecure place. It's not, I'm doing nice things so people will like me. Please like me, please like me, please like me. I'm going to hold doors open. I'm going to buy my girlfriend gifts or whatever. Hopefully she'll stay with me. I hope she doesn't leave me. It's not that. It's a case of you're being a nice person. You're holding doors. You're buying gifts because you love the person, or you like the person or whatever, and you're feeling it's the right thing to do. And then when she turns around and says, oh, what can I get you in return? Like, you paid for dinner last night. How about I pay for dessert? Having the confidence to be able to say, you know what, that sounds really good.
Yeah, it's exactly that. It's exactly that. It's all about like you said, having the confidence and the kind of self I can't think of the word, but self-value, we'll say, to basically self-worth, sense of self-worth.
Yeah, the self-esteem,
self-esteem, to basically know that and understand that you're doing it for a reason and you're not just doing it for the sake of it. And it's okay. Like, there's nothing wrong with giving value and not expecting anything back. That's when you become what is kind of leaning more towards immoral or bad, or what you don't want to go towards, which is doing something and then saying, right, now you have to do this for me. Like, that's wrong. You can't expect or demand. Yeah, unless you have a contract, you can't expect anything in return. Don't keep a tally. But just give value and do things with the knowledge and understanding that you are at the very least building a relationship, so that it just becomes go with the intention of essentially building relationships, whether it's friend or business or even romantic relationships, and just understand that by having those in and of itself, that will bring value to not just you, but the other person in the relationship as well.
All right, brilliant. Okay, you mentioned earlier some mentors you've learned from. You mentioned Jason Capital, you mentioned Craig Ballantyne, you even mentioned me, so thank you for that. Who would you say is the best mentor you've had in your life so far? Is it one of those three or somebody else? Or
I've recently started a course from Craig Ballantyne called the Double Your Profits Coaching, and I highly recommend it. And I've been doing it for about a month at this point, and the amount of value I've got for that course is absolutely ridiculous. So in terms of what I've done recently, by far Craig Ballantyne, just because I suppose I've bought more from him and actually gone further through his training. But to be fair, in terms of like lasting and in terms of consistent, I would probably argue you, to be fair, just because you're very much the person that I bounce ideas off, and it's kind of a very consistent long-term benefit and almost like two-sided mentorship. Whereas Craig Ballantyne is very much, I have a course, so I know I've paid for a course, so I know I'm going to get this amount of value for 3 months.
Okay. So if somebody was coming up to you right now and said, Jordan, I'm looking to start my business. I can afford to pay for one course on mentorship. I can afford for one mentor. Let's assume everybody's charging the same amount. You'd say Craig Ballantyne, and you'd say the Double Your Money course.
Double Your Profits coaching. Yeah.
There you are. Double Your Profits coaching. Just to be clear, unless he's done a deal behind my back, that's not a paid sponsor. We're not paid to say that.
No, I'm not an affiliate. I'm not an affiliate.
Right, there you are. No affiliate. There's not going to be a link down in the description or anything like that. But it is genuinely worth it. And I can vouch how much he's improved in this last month and how well his business has taken off compared to where it was before. And it was doing well. It was doing well already, but this whole month has been fucking. It's not even comparable.
Explosive, yeah.
It's absolutely blown up. Okay, so go on then, Craig. You talked about Craig, Jason Capital. What would your recommendation for him be? Is there a specific course? Is it just check out his YouTube channel, check out his Instagram? Do you say just, you know what, here's his phone number, you're just going to announce it and everybody can just go annoy him? What's your advice to JC?
Yeah, no, I won't do that to Jason. I don't want to, leave him swamped with calls every day. To be fair, I think he has a specific phone that he uses for stuff like that, and he just mutes it all day. So
I do.
I don't blame you. I can't imagine.
Phone, yeah.
Can't imagine what fresh hell must have occurred for you to decide that.
We'll talk about it next time.
So my kind of journey as such with Jason Capital was he was actually one of the first kind of mentors or the first kind of people I discovered in the entrepreneurship kind of world. And it was through Instagram. And I spent a long time just literally watching pretty much every single video that he put out. Like he was putting out 3 or 4 times a day at one point. And I was just there, notifications on, watching every single video that he put out. And it was all super valuable. I was learning a bunch of different stuff. And then I actually got access to his copywriting specific course. I can't remember the name of it for the life of me. I don't know if he's actually doing it anymore, but it's part of his inner circle. I know that. You'd have to Google how to actually get into that nowadays because he changed it. But I basically got access to his inner circle, and that gave me access to a ton of copywriting specific training. So I worked through all that. And that's a big reason why I started making so much more money from my freelance copywriting and how I'm able to basically charge what I charge and work with the clients I work with nowadays with my marketing agency. So I highly recommend that if you can / when you look at it and figure out how to get into his inner circle now. I believe you can find him on Facebook and do it that way, or you'll have a link on his Instagram. And the other big thing that I do with Jason Capital and still do to this day is he does a weekly training where he comes on every Monday at, I believe it's 5 p.m. UK time. And basically he just does a live talk with you. He'll talk about something that's working in his business. He'll talk about a topic that he wants to discuss that day, whether it's to do with, generally it's focused around one of the 3 big key skills. So copy, closing and speaking. And he'll sort of choose one of them and say, right, today we're going to be talking about copy and we're going to be talking about FOMO, for example. And then every week he'll do that. And the best part is it only costs, I believe it's £9 a month. So it's less than a Netflix subscription, which is the line he uses in his ads. So it's less than a Netflix subscription and you get a weekly call live with him and the opportunity to ask questions at the end. And that's just been ridiculously valuable for me, especially when I was first starting out and I had a lot of questions. It's like, what should I do here? What should I do here? Does this work? Does this work? And it's so great to just be able to go on and not only ask him questions, but ask a question to him and then have the 20 or 30 other people on the call answering the question as well, giving their feedback. And it's just so valuable to be able to have that sort of support network. So for JC, it's definitely, from what I've done, is the inner circle copywriting courses and also the teachable weekly calls that I've just mentioned.
All right, great. I think you touched on it just then, but just to make it really clear for all the people listening, why is it that you and I have spent like the last 10 minutes talking about mentors and mentorship? What do you think that's so valuable, and why do you think having a mentor is almost required if you want to be successful?
So to basically kind of keep it on point, you only have a limited amount of time alive, and you only have a limited amount of hours each day. So as a single person, as one person, you can only learn and only experience a limited amount of things, because it's not physically possible to do any more. So you basically have two options with anything in life, not just business, but for anything you want to do. You can either go it on your own and try and test and practice and try and figure out every single little thing on your own, which you can do, but I can guarantee that it'll probably take you till you're about 70, and then you'll be dead in a couple of years. So then it's kind of, you spent all these years learning it and trying it and testing it for what? The best years of your life at that point have then gone. So then your other option is you basically pay somebody who has that knowledge and experience to just teach that. And it's almost like a shortcut. So, for example, I'm learning from Craig Ballantyne. I don't know how to, apologies, Craig, if you're actually younger than that, but I believe Craig is about 35, 40. So for me to have my mentorship directly from him is literally like skipping ahead in terms of my business progress from where I am now at 20 to where he is, or at least just short of where he is, because I'm obviously still learning from him. So it's almost like my business now is where it should be if I was on my own, is where it would be or should be when I'm 35. So it just lets me basically skip out all of the pain and struggles that I would have experienced over those 15 years and just jump straight to the progress, basically.
Okay, so it's exactly like what you were saying earlier. It's about freedom, and it's about, at the end of the day, you can spend the next 20 years trying things and working out what works, or you can just pay somebody who has spent 20 years figuring out what works and saving yourself those 20 years. So it's all a question of time. It's about time collapsing. It's about giving yourself the freedom to devote your time to something else. Whether that's you can get your business successful by 25 and then you can just chill for the rest of your life and have a great lifestyle, rather than just having to be on that grind for 50 years. Or whether it's a case of you free up enough of your time that you can say, sweet, I can just put the business on autopilot, pay someone else to run it. I'm going to go to the beach. I'm going to get myself a tiki cup and I'm going to be drinking vodka Red Bulls. Yeah,
exactly. I think, especially with business owners, you think of, like, for example, let's use Bill Gates as an example. He's a big fan of saying, right, you need to work 16 hours, 18 hours a day. And what most people don't realize is, yes, that was probably true for Bill Gates because he didn't have social media, he didn't have the internet, so he had mentors, but he didn't necessarily have mentors that could help him achieve his goals specifically, especially because his goals were so massive. And it is true, you need to work 16 hours a day, but only if you are literally doing it on your own. So you are having to spend that time figuring out how to do things, trialing and testing it. But if you have a mentor literally sharing with you their knowledge and experience, especially if you have a mentor that's growing at the same time so they can keep teaching you, then you don't need to spend all those hours every day trying and testing things and providing a service and running the business and actually enjoying your life. You can get away with, you can spend as much or as little time you want on the business because you know what works, because you're being taught it. So you don't have to spend 16 hours a day on a business if you do have a mentor in place, because the learning's been done for you, or the trial and error has been done for you. And now all you basically need to do is read it, watch it, learn it, apply it. And then that's it. It's just rinse and repeat that process.
Okay. So what we're saying is basically having a mentor is like having the textbook to life, or the textbook to business, to success, to whatever it may be. And it's a question of, you wouldn't sit down and try and learn French without using any resources, because otherwise you'd really struggle. If you just move to France and try to copy other people, you'd really struggle. But instead you get the textbook, you learn, these are the rules, this is the vocab, this is the grammar structure, etc. And then you go and implement. And what you're saying is a textbook is like a permanently updating, interactive, real life, flesh and blood. A mentor is like a flesh and blood version of a textbook.
It's literally like, it's even better than a textbook. It's like a real life constantly updating and growing textbook that also tells you and only shares with you the information that's actually relevant for you. So you don't even need to go searching for the right bits of information and say, oh, do I need this bit? Do I need this bit? Should I bother with this? It's literally, right, this is the position you're in. I was in your position 10, 15 years ago. Do this, then this, then this, and you will achieve this, this, and this. So it's even simpler than a textbook. It's literally just...
It's super specific, almost like a textbook that's written just for you in your situation here and now.
Exactly. A handmade, tailored textbook that walks you through it and constantly grows. That's the best way to describe it.
All right. So to any of the listeners out there, who, obviously you've given some specific names. You've said Craig Ballantyne, you've said Jason Capital, you even said me, so thank you for that. How would you recommend they go and find a mentor? Let's say they're not looking for one of these guys. They've got a super specific niche that these aren't the right guys for them. What would you say is important when you're looking for a mentor? What kind of characteristics are you looking for? What should you try and find in a mentor?
So in terms of what you should look for in a mentor, the kind of best thing to do is, and this is exactly what I've done, and it's worked out really well for me so far, is basically find someone who is as close to where you want to be in 20, 30, 40, however many years, and basically get mentorship from them. Somebody who basically, is as close to where you want to be, basically, whether it's a 15, 20, 30-year goal that you have in mind. And not only that, but also they are good mentors in terms of they understand what they're doing. They have the knowledge and information laid out and actually written out, because it's all very well, I could go to a CEO who runs a marketing agency and they may have run a really successful marketing agency, but that doesn't mean they can present the information in a way that I could then learn from and reapply to my own business, because maybe they haven't been documenting their processes or something like that.
Okay.
So essentially, if you want to not play it safe, but if you want to be more secure in the fact that they are actually a good mentor, you basically look for somebody who is X amount of years ahead of you, who is always learning and growing, and who potentially has past experience, either coaching or mentoring. And then you have those testimonials to kind of be like, oh, they're not just a CEO, they're not just a business owner who's constantly working, stressed out. They actually know what they're talking about and can help me grow and learn. And in terms of tools that you can use to find a great mentor, social media is fantastic. And I think in terms of business mentorship specifically, LinkedIn is a super powerful tool you can use for that. So you can literally on LinkedIn search mentor and your specific industry, and then it will literally come up with a long list of people who mentor in your specific industry. And then you can just choose based on their experience, or you can jump on a call with 5 or 6 of them, see which one you meld with the best. And it's kind of super easy to do it that way. And I wish I had found LinkedIn earlier on, because the networking search tool on that is insane.
All right, awesome. One sec, Lee just walked into the room, so I'm going to pause the recording. We'll pick it up again in a sec.
No stress.
All right. Hey, so quick apology from me. We've completely and totally lost our train of thought in the conversation. Simply because my fiance came in, she had to make a bottle for our son. So paused everything, let her sort that out rather than disrupt us. And I'll come back to it. It's only been about 5 minutes, but me and Jordan are both a bit scatterbrained, and we're quite good at focusing, which means as soon as we lose our focus and put our focus on something else, it's gone. So no idea what we were talking about. I think it had something to do with mentoring, but I can't really remember. So we're just going to ignore that. That was the end of that conversation. It was brilliant. I'm sure you got a load of value from it. So Jordan, what's the best advice you've ever received? Best advice you've been given?
In my entire life, the best advice I have ever received is 2 words: just start, which I have now adopted as my motto for everything. Because I always used to be the person who was not super, but I was low self-esteem, not sure of myself, not as confident, nowhere near as confident as I am now. And I was very indecisive. So I was very much either you take the responsibility of the decision in a group of friends, for example, or if I made a decision the next day, I'd be like, maybe I didn't want to make that decision. Maybe I wanted to do this or this or this. And then I would essentially end up going in a circle trying to decide between the options I had.
Mhm.
So it was actually Jason Capital that gave me that advice in one of the weekly calls. I was actually asking him, this was way back when I was just doing the freelance work. And I was like, oh, what, I'm trying to find my niche for copywriting. What should I do? I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. And every week I'm going back and forth trying to decide what I should be doing. And then he goes, dude, just start, like literally just get on with it, choose a direction, go in that direction, see how well it works. If it's failing miserably after 6 months, just do something else. And he made the point of, especially for me, I'm only 20. At that point, I was 18. He was like, you've got your whole life ahead of you. You could try out 4 big things in your life between 18 and 20. I think he actually said 6 big things between 18 and 21. You could try 6 big things, fail at them for 6 months, and then on your 21st birthday, start the 7th big venture, and then succeed. And then at 22, you're a huge success. So by far, the best advice I've received is just stop, take the time to think about things and just weigh up your options. But if you're literally sat there just like, oh, which option do I go with? Which route do I go down? Just stop and just literally pick one, go with it. And if you don't like it or it fails, go down the list and try the next one and the next one and the next one. And each time you do it, not only will you have eliminated an option that you don't enjoy or that won't be successful, but you've also then got the experience and knowledge you've earned from that first one in the list when it goes into that second one. So by just starting, by taking action, you can learn more, learn better, and all around actually have success.
All right. So are you taking your own advice? What projects, what have you got that you're just starting right now? What have you got coming up in the pipeline?
So one of my mentors, literally just before this call, recommended that I try a new type of service. And this was literally an hour ago. And I've already got the plans in place to get this sorted by the end of the week, get it rolled out. And that is a bespoke graduate job CV and cover letter writing services specifically for students who are obviously looking for graduate jobs. And his recommendation as to why I should do this and kind of my understanding of it is graduate jobs are harder to come by than ever, especially with the recession, Brexit and COVID. It's just an absolute shit show. And the key to get into the door of any job is a CV and cover letter. And so many people fall down at that first hurdle, even if they are perfect for the job they're applying for, just because they maybe don't know how to write or they don't understand how to create a well-structured CV or cover letter. So for me, this is very much helping people get into the life they want. And that's kind of the big thing about my goal with everything as well. It's not just, I don't just want to help people start businesses, because at the end of the day, not everyone wants to do that. It's about helping young people build the life they want and live the life they want. So in this case specifically, I want to help people get their dream job. And the best way to do that is to firstly get them through the door. And then when they're through the door, it's a case of having the interview and using mindset, which can be taught by somebody like you, and just general confidence and, speaking, power speaking. So it's literally, this is the first step to getting them their dream job. And it just kind of removes that first hurdle that so many people have to jump over, or in this case, in 2021, the first hurdles you have to jump over because it's so difficult. So starting from, basically right now / the end of the week, I'm going to be providing that as a service. I'll be putting the word out to students in any university, any city, that if you're looking for a graduate job, the best way to guarantee you getting in to that interview is to basically get a solid CV and is of getting through that first hurdle, getting your foot in the door, and then all you need to do is bring it home and just absolutely kill it and put across your experience and your kind of knowledge and confidence to the employer.
All right, brilliant. I'm actually very excited to see how that goes. I'll definitely be sending a load of my clients your way, because A lot of the people I work with are students as well, and some of them may not be graduates, some of them may still be at uni, but I'm sure the work you can do with regards to CVs and writing that beautiful bit of copy that just sells them so well to that employer, I'm sure it's going to work regardless. So I'll definitely be like, as soon as we finish on this, I'll give you a list of names. Right, question I ask everybody I ever interview. I've asked every mentor, I've asked anybody I find interesting. It's always the same question. What's the best book you've ever read? What is the book you recommend? If you could only have one book to give to your child or your son or your mentor, mentee, or whoever it is, you can only give them one book, what would it be? It doesn't have to be about business, it could be about anything at all. Go.
Yeah. How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
Nice. Okay, why is that?
Without a doubt, fantastic. Basically, it is a book that teaches you everything you need to know about human relationships, or most of the basics anyway of human relationships. Like if you follow the principles in that book alone, then you can get very high levels of success in your life. And that's literally just through building relationships and understanding how to interact with people to not just get what you want, but get what you want and bring value to their life at the same time. And I think just having that kind of knowledge and toolkit is ridiculously powerful. That would be, for at least most people, that would be the one book that I recommend everyone has, just because it's almost like your Bible to human relationships, or like I say, it's literally the basics of everything you need to know to at least get by. And then if you wanted to pair that with a book that takes individual elements of that book further, then I recommend that. Like, for example, I know you released a book on mindset, and some of the topics that you mentioned, I'll mention in that book. So, for example, you could buy your book or a similar book and use that to take specific elements of how to win friends and influence people to the next level. But the book I recommend everyone buys first is How to Win Friends and Influence People, to give you that foundation that is just so beneficial to business and human relationships and love relationships and pretty much anything in life.
All right, sounds good. And just because you opened the door for me, selfless plug, the book that he referenced that I wrote is called The Mindset of Kings. It will be available from February 1st on Amazon, on Kindle, on Apple iBooks store. It will be available in all those fucking services. It's called The Mindset of Kings. It's by Harry Cutress. It's a fucking great book. He just told you himself it's great. It's the second best book in the world, apparently, because Jordan referenced 2 books then, and mine was the second. So it's better than the Bible. It's better than anything JC's wrote, apparently, from Jordan's opinion, not mine. I didn't say it. He did. Just making that clear. All right, so last question, Jordan. What's the best place where people can reach you? If they wanted to get in contact now, say, for example, they're a student and they want to jump straight in, can you help them write this CV for them? Or if they've got their own business, they're an entrepreneur and they want to reach out and start working with you so they can get some help with marketing, where's the best place to find you?
By far, the best place to find me right now is LinkedIn. I'm getting super active on LinkedIn. I'm really enjoying my time on there. So LinkedIn is, I literally dedicate time every day to going through my messages on LinkedIn, because I end up waking up with like 40, 50 or even 100 some days. So it's literally every morning I wake up, first thing I do, check my LinkedIn messages, start building those networks, reply to anything that anybody's asking me. And that's kind of the start to my day. So if you want to reach me on LinkedIn, go to LinkedIn, drop me a message. My name is just Jordan Lewis on LinkedIn. And yeah, you'll see me there. I have the same profile picture as I do on every social media. It's me in a suit with a silver background. So I'm pretty easy to find. And yeah, I will reply there by at least the start of the next day, because like I say, that's when I check. But don't email me, because I never check my emails. And I have notifications turned off. Exactly, yeah. I have notifications turned off for every other social media. So if I do reply, it will probably be like a couple of weeks or something ridiculous. But LinkedIn, you'll get a reply within like 24 hours most of the time.
All right, so just to reiterate that to people, if you want to get in contact with Jordan, you're looking for LinkedIn, and it's Jordan Lewis, JordanLewis, and you're looking for a profile picture that is quite literally this beautiful, handsome face that you see on your screen when he speaks, and it's him in a suit, silver background. You can't miss him. Drop him a message on there. he'll reply within, say, 24 hours, and he'll give you some great value and great content, and you won't regret it.
Yeah, 100%.
All right,
I
sweet.
appreciate that.
So is there anything else you wanted to go past, Jordan? I've kind of got through this. I think everyone watching and listening has got amazing value, learning a lot more about you, your story, what you're trying to do, and just taking some fantastic advice from you. So is there anything else you'd want to ask or anything you want to go through?
Right, I want to actually hear more about your story because I've heard various versions of it over the years, just, as you've kind of grown and developed. And I know that it's interesting as fuck. And I know that plenty of people, well, pretty much everyone actually, will enjoy and benefit from listening to your story because it is fascinating.
Okay. Which story? Where do you want me to start? What do you want to know about me?
Start literally when you started going from socially awkward loser, which Harry describes himself as, not me, to where you are now, to more confident, more kind of open, even more extroverted to a degree, and just all around who you are today. How did you make that change? Where did you come from? Where did you go?
So yeah, okay. Very I'll try and make this not a 3-hour speech, but very quickly, my kind of story, my evolution was, I was that kid at school in sixth form who wasn't skinny, I wasn't fat, I wasn't like super jacked either, but I had a decent rig on me, better haircut back then as well. I had kind of things going for me. I'm quite a handsome guy. Things were going well. I was intelligent. I was doing well at school. I had good grades. I had a bit of cash in my pocket. I had kind of all the things that people would naturally look at and go, well, of course he's doing well with women because he's that, or because he's rich, or because he's handsome, or because he's got full head of hair and I'm not bald, or because of whatever it could have been. But I wasn't. I was absolutely atrocious with women. I wouldn't even get the opportunity to try and get rejected and fail. I would just have panic attacks. So the big moment for me was I was at Starbucks. I was with one of my mates. He went first. He ordered himself a cappuccino. He got served, got his coffee, went and sat down. I went up and the barista who was working there went to make a drink. So this female barista came over to take my order, and I was that bad and that nervous talking to women that I instantly started having a panic attack. My heart started going. I just lost the ability to speak. I was looking down at the floor. I kind of shrunk up. It was just horrible.
What were you thinking that made you so anxious?
I was just so terrified of what she was judging me for. So I was there going, oh, is she going to think I'm short? Is she going to think I'm fat? Is she going to think I'm skinny? Is she going to think I'm an idiot? I don't even particularly know. It was just one of those things where it just collapsed. Meant my body language collapsed. I shrunk up as my heart was going. I was getting sweaty. I had dry mouth. It was just horrible. And I ended up kind of looking at the floor and mumbling, oh, I'll have a pea head, please. And I ended up with this cappuccino that I spent like £4.50 on. And I don't drink coffee. I never have. Like, nobody wants to see me with caffeine. Like, God knows I'm high enough energy as it is. So it just was a bad experience. So that led to me literally being the nerd who goes home and gets his laptop out in the middle of the night at like 3 o'clock in the morning and types how to talk to girls. And then I'm on YouTube going how to be confident. And then I'm on fucking Facebook groups going how to talk to women. And I went down this whole PUA kind of lifestyle and strategy. And I was in groups and forums and watching videos and all this kind of, I went down this rabbit hole. And 99% of all the advice I was given, or the advice I saw, or the advice I learned or read or whatever it was just utter bollocks. Like, it was just garbage. It was crap. Or even worse, there was a nugget of truth in there and it was coated in bollocks, which meant whilst I could have taken one good thing from that message, I'd try it out, fail, and throw it all away and assume the whole thing was awful. And I ended up throwing babies out of the bathwater repeatedly. I ended up going on a gap year just after I left school. I spent some time in Italy, and I bumped into a dating coach there. And I was just sat in a coffee shop, like having a hot chocolate and some ice cream. And I just overheard this guy walking past of like a crowd of people, and he was talking about terms that I'd heard about. He was talking about negging, and he was talking about pre-selection and all these different things. And I literally heard as he walked past, he was talking about these things, and I kind of waited until he'd finished talking, and I kind of went up to him when he was by himself and went, "Hey, I actually recognize you from YouTube. I have no idea what you charge for coaching, but I can pretty much guarantee I can't afford it. I'm on a gap year. I'm a poor like student. I haven't even got a student loan yet. I'm living on like €2 slices of pizza. That's it. That's my food for the week. So I'll work for you for free, but in return can like hang out with you and notice what you do and get lessons." And he was like, yeah, go for it. Like I could use like an admin guy. So I was basically his secretary or his personal assistant or his apprentice, whatever you want to fucking call it, for about 6 months while I stuck out in Italy. And yeah, I learned the truth behind it. So I learned that negging and stuff like that is just bollocks. It doesn't work. And even if it does work for you one time, it's not repeatable. It's not one of these things that you can do it over and over and over again and get the same results. And so I actually started learning from him a lot of the framework, which I now coach and I now teach people. I've just gone and put my own spin on it. I've gone and taken things 2 stages further, 2 steps further. I've dug deeper into the psychology, specifically the evolutionary psychology of why things work. And based on that, I've been able to I came back to the UK, I went to uni. I went from the guy who has panic attacks in a coffee shop to a club promoter, running nightclubs and running events and having my own events and my own teams and stuff in multiple different cities at the same time, making income from it. And even getting to the stage where I had mates come up to me and be like, yo, like, what's going on here? Like when we knew you before your gap year, you couldn't even like talk to a girl unless you'd had like 19 beers in you and you were pissed out your mind. Now you've walked in here sober, you've been here for 5 minutes, and now you've got like a group of 6 girls around you and you're having a laugh and you're having a chat, and you seem to like the life of the party, and everyone's kind of like magnetized towards you and drawn to you. What's gone on? And I'd say to them, oh, I've done this and this and this, and they'd be like buying me drinks in order to get me to keep talking. And that led to me clocking on, or hang on, I've got a few different people here who are willing to pay for my nights out if I like either bring women with me, or if I bring my friends, or if I show them what to do. So that became, oh, I'll just tell you what, give me £100, that'll pay for my drinks for the night and I'll coach you. And that just developed and developed and developed into Regal Confidence and the company that it is now, where I'm trying to help people formulate their own lives, the lives they want to live, live like a king, basically, on their terms, with the social, the romantic, the dating, and the business kind of networks and lives that they could only ever dream of beforehand. That's my evolution. That's my story.
Definitely a glow up, that's for sure.
Glow up in every aspect except for the fact I've now decided to shave my head for no real reason. Yes.
Yeah, it must be chilly now.
Yeah. My my fiance did kind of, that's the first thing she said, other than what the fuck have you done? It was followed by, your head's gonna be cold.
Yeah. I'll get my mum to knit you a hat.
It's one of those, as with most things, yeah, it turns out my fiance was right. Like, yeah, it is actually quite cold now. Particularly when it rains, which we live in England, it always rains.
Yeah. I've got one question there, going back to more towards the start of your story, specifically when you was in the coffee shop. So you obviously said, you were overthinking, you're worried about, oh, what's this barista thinking of me? Is she thinking I'm short? Is she thinking I'm fat? Is she thinking I'm too skinny? Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So my question is, where do you think that anxiety came from? Has that just been something you've always had, or is it something that was just like a painful event or memory that kind of triggered that? Or
I can't give you one specific event that happened in my life specifically, but I do know that for most people who suffer social anxiety like I did, one of the most common is probably something that we've all actually been a part of, which is, when you're in year 1 or something and somebody says that they like somebody else, and obviously you're 5, you're 6 years old, no one actually really likes anybody, you're too young for that. But you start singing this song and you're like, oh, Jordan and Harry sitting in a tree, Kissing. That song, you actually think, yeah, if you actually pay attention to what that song does to your brain, what actually happens is your brain is constantly learning patterns to make your life simpler, because otherwise you'd have to think about every single thing you do every single time you do it. And that just takes up so much energy, none of us will be able to function. So our brain's constantly forming patterns to make life simpler. Well, the pattern your brain forms there is I show interest in somebody, I get mocked for it. Being mocked for it isn't fun. Therefore, I show, and the big connection, therefore, is I admit that I like somebody or show interest in somebody. It's not fun and I feel bad. So therefore, your brain goes, well, if I don't want to feel bad, never show interest and never show that you like anybody. And it literally creates that feedback loop. So anytime you go to do it, your brain goes, no, stop, because this is going to mean we feel bad. And our brains are quite stupid. And obviously our brains are also incredibly intelligent, but they're not designed for the 21st century because we haven't been able to evolve quickly enough to deal with the development of society. So your brain's anxieties are all built on the premise of what we evolved from. And our brain doesn't understand that we live in the 21st century with Tinder, with Facebook, with Instagram, with cars, with houses and walls and fire and heat to keep away animals. Instead, your brain has the assumption that if you get rejected, everybody will know about it, your reputation will be destroyed, no one else will sleep with you. Well, that's the end of your genetics because no one will sleep with you, so you have no kids, so your genetics die. Well, that means survival of the fittest has destroyed you. It also means nobody has respect for you, nobody will support you. If a lion comes along, you have to fight it off by yourself. You die. So your brain, my brain, quite literally, and most guys with social anxiety, their brain is assuming that rejection equals death. And that's something that took me about 9 months of constant work to deal with, partly because I didn't know the way to deal with it at first. And I learned, like I said, a lot of really bad advice to begin with. But yeah, it's one of those, there's a lot of terrible advice. I learned how to deal with it. I've learned what actually does work. I've done it myself, and I've got about 300 success stories just in the last couple of years of how you can actually get over social anxiety. And that's definitely where mine came from. It came from being teased on the school grounds. It came from just me opening up and showing interest and love towards somebody and getting it thrown back in my face. And my brain just went, it's too painful. So we're just going to we're going to shut you down and give you a panic attack to avoid you doing this behavior so we don't get hurt again.
So that's a lesson for all parents out there. Don't let your kids tease other kids because you cause social anxiety.
No, that's not the lesson. The lesson is you're going to inevitably suffer trauma. Learn to deal with your traumas. Because if you never learn to get over trauma, if you never get teased, you're just going to get broken the first time somebody does tease you.
Yeah, I completely get you. So yeah, just a disclaimer, ignore this note though then. Like obviously the key here is to overcome it and essentially rewire your brain so that it's not a fucking idiot. How do you go about doing that? How do you go about overcoming the default programming of your brain?
Okay, it does depend a lot on what your default programming is and where it comes from. So in my case, it was a case of I learned that talk to women, get accused of liking the girl, get mocked. Mocking sucks, feel bad. So my brain learned, talk to women, feel bad. Because you talk to a woman, she'd reject you, you'd show interest, she'd reject you, and that
classical association. Yeah.
So my brain created this association. And what you have to do then is, in my case, I did what's I basically gave my brain so many stimuli and so many responses where that didn't happen that it broke the association. So say, for example, you're like, let's talk about, say, Pavlov's dog. The dog learns that when the bell rings, food comes, and it creates that association. So then you can just ring the bell and it starts to salivate and produce saliva ready to eat, and it starts feeling hungry. Well, if you continue to ring that bell and you never provide food, that association gets broken pretty quickly because that association isn't helpful anymore because it's not accurate. So that's exactly what I had to do. I had to sit down and reteach my brain that talking to women did not mean rejection. How? Well, talking to women in a friendly way where there was no way for rejection. Very simply, walking up to somebody and saying, hey, really sorry to bother you. Do you know where the directions are to so-and-so? Or do you have the time? Do you know where such and such is? There's no way to be rejected there really other than, sorry, I'm busy, which is fine because you've said that before I've even asked you the question. So you haven't actually even rejected my question. But if I would literally go to a shopping center in the middle of the day, when it's like midday, really busy, 2 o'clock, whatever, and walk up to them and say, hey, really sorry, do you know where Burger King is? Do you know where Starbucks is? Do you know what the time is? I'm supposed to meet my friend in a few minutes. Do you know where so and so is? And they'd almost always answer me and almost always be really polite about it. And that means my brain was learning the association of, oh, I walk up to a stranger, I get a positive reaction. Okay, great. And then it was a case of learning skills so that I was actually more attractive to women. So sorry to all the guys out there who hear this, but the truth is confidence is attractive. So I had to go out and learn how to look more confident because your physiology affects your mentality and your mentality affects your physiology. So I had to learn to, when I was talking to them, to not stand like this and lower my head and talk quietly and have my shoulders forwards. I had to learn to actually come across as more confident. So I had to lean back, spread my shoulders out, take up a bit more space, look somebody in the eye and talk with conviction. And as I was learning these skills, as I was actually becoming more confident, because the idea of faking it till you make it does work when it comes to body language. If you make yourself feel more, look more confident, you will start feeling more confident. And the same way, you can see the reverse happen. If you look at a time when you start feeling insecure, you will be able to watch yourself, if you record it on video, that you started to physically look more insecure and weak. You naturally start to kind of shrink down and make yourself smaller. And that just creates this spiral loop. So that's how I went about doing it. I just overloaded my brain with other reference points so it broke the previous attachment.
That makes sense. So it's kind of similar to forming new habits, as it sounds like. It almost is forming new habits, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, interesting then. So one thing that kind of I'm curious about then is when I first started, for example, when I first started selling tickets for you or with you at the nightclub you were promoting.
Yeah.
The first night I started, and I had a book full of 20 tickets in my hand, and I looked to my right and I basically saw this big group of, it was like 20 or 30 people, must have been like a big block of flats coming out together, mixture of girls and guys, mostly girls. They're all relatively attractive, at least. And I mean, at that point, I was like, oh, yeah, super attractive girls and some pretty good looking guys. And they're all better than me, was my kind of perception of it anyway. So then that first night, I was super nervous. And I remember literally standing there with the book of 20 tickets in my hand. It was cold. And I was sort of just stood there on my own, looking at the tickets. And my hands were literally shaking at the thought of going over to them. I knew I had to, because I knew I needed to sell a ticket, and I knew that I needed to just have a conversation with them. And it's not like I was asking them out on a date. It's not like I was asking them to do anything for me. I was literally just saying, do you want a ticket? Okay, it's £4 or £5 or however much it was. So my question is, how did you overcome that fear that you, I would assume, have had when you were even asking a girl for directions on the street? Because even like that used to scare me. It didn't used to make me shake like that did, but it used to make me feel anxious to the point where I would just give up and not bother. So how did you overcome that anxiety and those kind of confidence issues to actually overcome the overall problem?
Okay, so I can give you the long-term answer and the short-term answer. So the long-term answer first is it's literally just a question of repetitions and experience. When it came to, say, well, you use the ticket selling example, the reason why by the time we met and you started working for me and sold tickets for me, you would watch me just walk up to anybody and just start talking, sell them tickets, and I'd usually close the sale, was because I had approached so many people by that point and started talking and closed the sale that my brain just saw it as okay, this is what happens. See a group of people, go talk to them, it goes well. And equally, I've been rejected so many times. And I mean, when I was ticket selling, probably in the first year, I started off in Birmingham. And I reckon in Birmingham, for my first month, I probably got 5,000 people say fuck off or say no to me and not buy a ticket. And very quickly, you desensitize to it. Because at the end of the day, the reason your brain gets scared of it is your brain thinks it's going to hurt you. Well, if it's happened to you 5,000 times and you're still breathing and you're still going and you've got no physical harm done to you, it's quite difficult for your brain to justify that it's scary or dangerous, because it clearly isn't. It's the same as like the first time you go on a roller coaster, maybe it's terrifying, but if you've been on the same roller coaster 300,000 times or every single time for every day for a month, you're no longer scared by it, no matter how much you are. It's called gradual desensitization, which is the therapeutic term for it. And basically that's what it was. Without me realizing at the time that's what I was doing to myself, I was basically gradually desensitizing myself to the stimuli, which was the idea of rejection. Because I just got rejected so many times, it no longer mattered. It was water off a duck's back to me. Mm-hmm. So that's the long-term answer. And that's why over the course of, say, 2 years, I was able to transform from panic attacks talking to somebody who was quite literally, in this case, she was paid to talk to me and to take my order and to be friendly. And I still had panic attacks, through to I was walking up to like celebrities in nightclubs, or I'd walk up to a celebrity on the street, or professional footballers in some cases, and just interrupt their conversation and just be like, look, at the end of the day, I know I'm interrupting you, I know it's rude, but you're going to thank me in 10 minutes because listen to this offer I'm going to get you. I'm going to sort you out. Where that comes from is general repetition, and just if you keep doing it, you will get better at it. It's the same with any skill. Practice makes perfect. And then the short-term answer is two things. The first of all is, when you describe this group, you said there's some attractive girls, there's some attractive guys, they're all looking confident, they're all looking good. I imagine that means you even said, I think they seemed better than you almost. Well, you stop doing that. Nobody is better than you because you don't know them. All you know is what they look like. You're looking at this group of people and you're going, well, they look attractive and they look attractive and they look aesthetically pleasing and all this stuff. That's all true. But you don't know if they're better than you. They could all be morons. They could all be racists. They could all be secret Nazis or white supremacists or communists, or they could be evil people. You don't know. They could have nothing going on for them in their life except good looks. Or they could just be the kind of people who, fair enough, they've got loads going for them, but they're not your kind of person. They're not the kind of person you want to hang out with. So you're making these prejudgments about them. You're assuming that because they look nice, they must be good people. Well, I can tell you this for certainty. I know lots and lots of attractive people who are horrible, horrible human beings. And I know lots of attractive people who are also phenomenal human beings. I know lots of ugly people or less attractive people who are phenomenal human beings. And I know lots of less attractive people who are terrible human beings. There's no correlation. So that's step one, is just looking at them and going, right, I don't know them. Therefore, the only way I can find out if they're good people, bad people, whatever, is by talking. So in terms of the sales setting, it's a case of walking and going, hey, you guys look like you're going out tonight. Are you going out clubbing, or are you just kind of on your way home? Have you just gone for a meal? Like, what's going on tonight? When they say they're going out clubbing, it's like, right, tick the box. They're the kind of people who go clubbing and they want to go clubbing tonight. That's the kind of person I want in my club. Okay, great. What kind of club are you guys looking for? What kind of music? What kind of a club attracts you? If they say the right things, great, they're my kind of person. Then ticking all these boxes. When they tick so many boxes, it's a case of, cool, I have now decided you're the kind of person I want to sell a ticket to. So here's my offer. Here's the money. Right, here's the tickets. Give me the money. Let's sort it.
Yeah,
that's the first thing.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I can vouch for desensitization working, being effective, because in the same way that you went from being anxious talking to the barista to where you are now going up to strangers and interrupting their conversations and generally just being more confident enough to do that is the key. I went from very much like when I first started selling tickets for you, it went from that and being so terrified of talking to these people that I was shaking to me literally walking up and down the street selling tickets, being told to fuck off, being told to shove the tickets up my arse, and it just brushing off me, and it doesn't matter to me at all. And I completely agree. Like all of, or at least most of that has come down to and come from me being exposed to it so much, so regularly, that you just get tougher essentially, and your skin thickens with every injury. So
yeah, it's exactly that. It's literally just developing a kind of a mental toughness. And the best way to develop a mental toughness when it comes to pretty much anything is gentle exposure to it. Now, I'm not saying you want to go out and expose yourself to all the nasty things in the world because so you can become tougher, because there are some things that will just break you. And that's essentially what PTSD is. At least that's my understanding. But if you can do it at small levels that are manageable and won't break you in half and won't destroy you, then you will just gradually, same as going to the gym, it'll toughen up that muscle. In the same way, I don't recommend people go to the gym, put 300 kg on a bench press, lay down and try and bench it, because you'll just tear your arms in half, drop the weight on top of your chest and kill yourself. But instead, if you start at, I don't know, 50 kilograms, 60 kilograms, you lie down, you do your reps, you let yourself recover, you come back to it, you eat right, you do all these other things behind the scenes. By that point, you can, over a period of time, get yourself up to, let's say, 300 kg. And it's the same with your mental toughness. I'm not saying spend every second of every day just going out and getting yourself rejected, because that's going to be horrendous for you. What I'm saying is you can do it in incremental steps where you say, right, today I'm just going to go out and talk to strangers and get positive reactions. Okay, today I'm going to put myself, let's say, in a sales job like you did with tickets, or like I used to do with cold calling and stuff like that, where you just get yourself rejected over and over and over again, so much so that your brain just learns rejection isn't going to kill me, so I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense. And it does sound, there's a lot of crossover between life in general and the dating scene and running a business and marketing. It's all the same principles, just applied in different ways.
Yeah, exactly. It's all people at the end of the day. Like, whether you're talking about business or dating or relationships or job interviews or whatever it may be, unless you've got some kind of very 21st century new agey business where you're specifically working with AI, at some point you are interacting with other people. And that's essentially what I'm trying to coach and help people with, which is the people side of life. Whether that is trying to find a girlfriend, whether that is trying to find the right person to have a long-term relationship with, whether it's just to make yourself more attractive to the opposite sex in general, whether it's trying to ace job interviews, smash it out of the park, get better at sales, etc. It's all people, it's all perception, and it's all how you come across to people.
Okay, makes a lot of sense. So what is your goal with Regal Confidence and your books and your courses and your coaching? Because I've met dating coaches and PUAs that, or pickup artists for anybody who isn't aware of that term. I've met and talked to probably hundreds of these people over my lifetime, and some of them are encouraging that you sleep around. Some of them are encouraging monogamy. Some of them are even encouraging polyamory. And there's just so many different routes to go down in terms of relationships. And I know that it's different and it's unique to each individual person. But for you personally, what is it that you are trying to help people achieve in their life? Okay,
so what I'm trying to help people achieve in their life is very simple, which is I realized, I don't know, through a bit of soul searching or whatever, when I was about 22, 21 maybe, that a lot of the problems I had in terms of anxiety and confidence and a lot of the skills that I lacked socially were because I didn't have a strong male role model to teach me these skills. I didn't have somebody to sit down and go, right, here's how you shake somebody's hand. I didn't have an example to watch and copy in terms of strong eye contact or in terms of even how to shave and basic things. And all of that means like there's a bit of an insecurity and a bit of like a nagging self-doubt there, because you don't know if you are a man yet, because you don't know what it is to be a man. So I realized that lots and lots of other guys have that exact same problem. They don't have a male role model at all, or they have a really bad one, or they're the kind of person who they do have a male role model, but they don't have the kind of relationship where they can turn to them and ask questions and ask advice and actually learn from them properly. They can only kind of watch from a distance and hope they pick up on the right training and the right lessons. So very much my mission is to try and help specifically them, but other men as well included, and women as well. But it's to help people live the life that they deserve to be living. So the way I always phrase it is, I want you to live like a king. And by that, I mean a good king. I mean Simba, Mufasa. I don't mean be fucking Scar because he's a cunt. What I'm trying to say by that is quite simple, which is I want you to be able to control what you do in your life. I want you to have freedom, kind of like what you were saying earlier. And that means freedom to have your choice when it comes to who you date, in terms of what kind of job you have, the kind of social circle you have, the network you have available to you. I want you to have the freedom to decide that what your life should be, and you shouldn't be forced to live a life on somebody else's terms. And I think the best way to do that is to start from a social setting. which is if you're the kind of person who, let's say, for example, you're stuck in a dead-end job, you're never really going to be financially free and you're really struggling. Well, one of the quickest and the best ways to get you out of that is to improve your social skills. Because whether maybe you can even get a job in sales, but let's say you don't. If you suddenly become the kind of person who everybody in the office turns to, if you become the kind of person who everybody trusts a lot more, if you become the kind of person your boss respects more and all that kind of thing, then inevitably you're going to end up in a situation where when they're talking about promotions or when they're talking about firing somebody or something, you're going to be the first on the list to get promoted. You're going to be the last on the list to get fired. And maybe, who knows, you can even then come to the boss with ideas and say, hey, just so you know, we've been doing this the same way for like 5 years now. I've been here for 5 years. We've always done it the same way. I've got an idea of how we can do it even better. Can I have a bit more responsibility so I can implement? And from that, you can develop leadership and you can become in charge and you can kind of grow your income that way. And as your social situation grows, you'll have more people around you with different opportunities. So you'll have a mate who says, oh, by the way, I'm starting my business. Do you want to come work with me? Like you're a good mate, let's get involved together. Or you'll have people say, oh, I've just invested in such and such company, like it's doing really well. Let me give you the number. Or you have people who are just successful giving you advice and helping you out because that's what a social circle brings to you. And the same goes for relationships. The same goes for friendships, who you spend your time with, everything else.
Yeah, no, so it sounds like you're kind of going down the route of just helping people get the life they want. You're not saying this is the right way to live your life. This is the best way to live your life. I'm going to teach you how to do this. I'm going to teach you how to do what the fuck you want, when the fuck you want, with who you want. And I think that's kind of so important to go down. But you personally, you've obviously gone down the route of monogamy, or at least you have at this point. I know you obviously used to be a bit of a player, for lack of a better term. But so at this point, you've obviously gone for monogamy. You're actually recently engaged with your now fiance. So congratulations for that. And you've also obviously recently had a son, Teddy or Theodore. Beautiful man. Yes. So what made you go down the route of monogamy? Why did you choose that? And why for you is that the best option for you?
Yeah, so just to wrap up like your kind of conclusion then, my logic is very simple, which is I want to teach you lot all to have the skills so you are the most attractive version of yourself possible towards women. And then I believe that the correct decision is to pick one woman and stick with her. So yeah, I'm pro monogamy. I can give you lots of reasons. Like I can quote religion or I can quote societal rules or whatever. One of the simplest ways I can explain it to you from a societal standpoint, and then I'll just give a more my own personal opinion reason for it, is very simple, which is if you have a significantly Pareto distribution of men and sexuality between men, which roughly means you have 1% of men get laid almost all the time, and then you get a big percentage of men at the bottom, let's say 20% who die as virgins. And that's kind of what actually does occur in real life. You have a massive percentage of men who don't have that many sexual opportunities, and a tiny percentage who have almost all of them. The reason why I think that's a bad idea is it's very easy for this group down here, that's 90% of people, to gang up on that 10%. And I think that resentment and having a lot of guys out there who are jealous and a lot of guys out there who say who are thinking, fuck you, that's not a good long-term idea. Because if I'm going around stealing everybody's girlfriends and sleeping around, and the girl that you're interested in, I get her to come sleep with me or whatever, you're now hating me, that's a bad long-term strategy. And I haven't had any horror stories, but I've got lots of friends who I've kind of helped out, and other dating coaches I know who have had some really nasty situations happen whereby they've gone to a bar, they've pulled a girl, they've slept with her, whatever. And then they've gone to that bar 2 weeks later and a bloke walks up to him and go, oh, you know so-and-so, don't you? And he's like, yeah, like we hung out a few weeks ago, I met her a few weeks ago, why? And they've just been punched in the face. It's like, I liked her, or that was my girlfriend. And he had no idea that she had boyfriend or anything at the time. And yeah, you can get some really hairy situations from it. And I personally would say to my clients, if you can avoid a situation where you're going to be punched in the face, unless it's the hill you're willing to die on, probably better you avoid being punched in the face. I've got quite a nice face.
Yeah.
Don't particularly want it broken. And then for my personal thing, like that was very
Yeah.
philosophical, and Jordan Peterson makes a great point about enforced monogamy as a social concept. But for my personal opinion, it's very simple, which is, like you said, I did the whole player thing. I did the sleeping around, not having a girlfriend. I did. I'm not proud of this, but when I first got kind of attracted to women, I cheated and I did all kind of horrible things that I'm not particularly proud of now. And the reason I decided to stick with my fiance Lee, and the reason why I haven't been unfaithful to her and I'm sticking with her kind of regardless now, we're going to get married and that's it for us, is because very simply, I think that there's some things that I can bring to the table when it comes to relationship. I think everybody brings something to the table. And I think that there's not necessarily the one, because I think that's kind of a made up concept by Disney, by Hollywood, those kind of ideas to sell products. But I do think that there are certain things that I can bring to the table and there are things that I can't bring to the table. And I have found somebody in Lee who brings things to the table that I don't have. And so therefore, together we are a really, really good balancing act. It means that we are much, much more rounded in terms of our skill set than I would be on my own or than she would be on her own. And very simply, I always said to guys, there's no point just sleeping with every girl you meet, because that's pointless, because at the end of the day, you want to have fun interactions with people. Even if you're still at this stage where you're, I don't know, 16, 18, 20, and you're going, yeah, I will settle down, Harry, but help me get laid now. My advice to you would be, okay, well, you should be trying to get laid at least with people you like. So, I mean, not just you like to look at. I mean, people who have values in common with you, the same sense of humor, somebody who's intellectually compatible with you, whatever that may mean. Just people who tick off the kind of things you're looking for. And so I've always said, and it's another great way to pedestal, by the way, which is when you're looking at, you said earlier about that sales group, you're looking at them going, oh, they're really attractive. You don't know anything else about them. So one great way to become confident when you're walking up to a girl in a bar is exactly that same thing. Yeah, I like to look at her, but I don't know anything about her. We may have no interest in common. We may have total opposite points of view, sense of humor. We may completely disagree on everything that matters to me. She may hate all my interests. I may hate all her interests. Intellectually, may be completely incompatible. And so it's only by going into the mindset of, I know nothing about her, let's kind of have fun in exploring each other and getting to know each other and finding out what can happen, that A, you build attraction with somebody, and B, you then get to put yourself in a correct decision to decide whether you want to escalate and go further, or whether you want to go, oh, it was really nice talking to you the last hour, like, have a great night, I'll catch you later, and then just moving on. So yeah, that's kind of my logic on it, which is I did the whole just sleeping around with anything I saw near enough. I did the whole let's go for 3 months and I'm only going to sleep with models, or I'm only going to sleep with girls who I rate, who my friends call a 9 or 10 out of 10. I did the whole well done, mate, pat on the back, and I did all the fucking validation from other people. And then I sat down and realized to myself, what do I want? And I'm far, far happier every now and again going out clubbing and going on a mad one and cutting loose. You of all people know that. But I'm much, much happier spending my Friday night chilling, having great conversations, having really interesting, brilliant, thought-provoking kind of debates and chats, and relaxing with just Lee, watching Netflix or doing whatever we're going to do. I much, much prefer that. So as a case of I went out specifically going, who is somebody that I do not ever get bored of, that I'm happy to just chill with? Because I'm looking for a life where I can chill. I've done the clubbing. I've been the club promoter. I've had my own events. I've literally been paid to party on 3 different continents, for fuck's sake. So I've been there and I've done it. It's not out of my system just yet, but for the most part it is. And I've always wanted to be a dad, and I've always wanted to be a husband, because I think that is one of the great things that gives you value as a man, and that's taking responsibility for somebody else. And all of those kind of things, all the stars aligned, so to speak, it all kind of worked out. And it hasn't been perfect, and it hasn't been easy, but me and Lee have the same values, so we've put the work in and we've created this fantastic relationship that's led to an engagement and led to the birth of our son. So that's kind of my logic for it, which is, even if you are an 18-year-old guy who goes, oh, I never want to get married, maybe not marriage, but trust me, you'll get to a point where you want to settle down. You will. You may not be there yet, and if you're not there yet, don't worry about it. Like, It will happen at some point. But whether you're at that stage or not, learn to become the best version of yourself. And then when you choose to settle down, you're not choosing to settle down with whoever is available for you. You actually get your pick, so to speak, of the women around, and you can pick the best possible partner for you. And that's what I'm trying to do. Even though I want you to be monogamous, I'm still going to help you get laid, because at the end of the day, you should have your pick of the litter because you're a fucking king. That's kind of how I see it.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. And I've definitely gone through a similar kind of cycle to you. Like, I didn't have the whole sleeping around side of it, but there was a time where my idea of a great night, would be going out and getting absolutely shit-faced and not remembering the night and not knowing who I'd spoken to or what I'd been doing or where I'd gone.
And just waking up by the river.
Right, I've never woken up by the river. It was on a sofa next to the river.
Okay, sorry.
But yeah, okay, fine. Well, at least I didn't wake up in the river. That could have been catastrophic.
I don't know if you know a story that I haven't told you, or if that was just a lucky comment.
I don't know.
So when we finish recording, I've got a story to tell you about that.
Okay, intriguing. I look forward to hearing it. And on another note, ladies and gentlemen, that is how Harry learned to swim. Wake up. What's going on? Where am I?
Shit, doggy paddle.
And that is why I wear my armbands everywhere.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you want a dating advice, that's all you need. Wear your armbands everywhere. The best business advice we could ever give you.
Yeah.
Go to the club wearing armbands. Turn up to a job interview with your armbands. That's the way to do it.
You definitely don't get bullied. I can guarantee that. Oh, I'm determined to try that though. Next time I go to a nightclub, I'm wearing armbands.
Do it.
I guarantee I get free drinks.
Just be honest about why you do it.
What, just in case I happen to fall asleep in a river or get thrown into a river?
It would work really well if, when somebody eventually comes up to you and says, so why the fuck are you wearing armbands? You turn around and said, well, me and my mate had a podcast and we mentioned in an episode about going clubbing with armbands on, so fuck it, I thought I'd try it. That would actually be a fantastic story. It would work really well. The issue people have when they do this kind of wacky shit and they're like, oh, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna peacock, and they learn all this bollocks dating advice from other pickup artists and so-called experts. Is peacocking only works if there's a legitimate reason for it. If I go out clubbing and I'm wearing a really crazy out there outfit, and I'm wearing it specifically so that people notice me, then when they ask why am I wearing it, and I'm like, they can sense that my answer's bollocks. Whereas if you just tell the truth, why are you wearing a stupid outfit? I don't know. I thought it looked good. When I looked in the mirror, I thought it looked all right. That gets you so much more like, it's honest, it's congruent, there's no manipulation involved. And that's kind of where I rant at and rage against, which is this kind of manipulation side of everything.
So that kind of, to kind of give a example from my own experience, it's kind of like I think it was last Freshers, there was an event at Leicester called Zoo Party, and it's basically exactly what it sounds like, a zoo-themed event. And so for that, most people, what they would do is maybe put on some tiger face paint or some shit like that.
Or the bunny ears.
But then me and the group we went out with, or the bunny ears, or the cat costumes, or whatever bollocks they decide they want to wear. And then me and my group of friends that went out to that, I can't remember if you were there actually, but
I wasn't.
Basically, you wasn't. No, I don't think you were.
It's Freshers. I work Freshers weeks. I'm too busy getting paid to be bothering wasting my time at Freshers events.
Yeah, that's fair.
Better things to do, mate.
Yeah, I don't blame you. So me and my group of friends, we all went pretty much all out. Like, I wore my mate Charlie's huge crab costume, and it just stood out massively. So it was a legendary costume. But the point is,
that crab costume.
The point is, I was wearing that, and the amount of interest I got, not just romantic interest or sexual interest, just interest generally from men, from women, just people wanting to give me a high five or a claw five, I suppose, or somebody even actually asked for my signature at one point, and I did a little scribble on their phone, on their notes. So the amount of interest you get, and it's like, so it's okay to do something ridiculous like that, but it has to make sense and there has to be a justification for it.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be justification that other people like. You just have to be able to self-justify. So like I remember I had a client come to me about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago maybe, and he said, I don't know what's going wrong because I've got the body language, and I remember talking to him, and decent looking guy, great body language, super congruent. He knew exactly what he was doing. He understood how pre-selection works and qualification and disqualification and all this stuff. He had everything going for him. And I couldn't work out what was his issue. So I said to him, right, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to meet at the club tonight. We're going to find out what your problem is because I need to see it for myself. Maybe you're brilliant and confident now, but once you get into that club setting, it just falls apart. He turned up to this club. He had a dildo for a hat. And he had a necklace on with a little dildo on it. Like, and I mean like a tiny little rubber thing, like, almost like you'd find on the end of straws and stuff sometimes.
Yeah. What straws are you using?
Like when you see hen parties.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
It's a throwback to boarding school. Anyway, so this guy turns up dressed like this, and I just said to him, "The fuck are you doing?" And he was like, "I'm peacocking, and it makes me stand out. Like, it means people are gonna like look at me and see people already looking and pointing and laughing." I was like,
"You should look a twat."
Yeah, like nobody wants like imagine you're a girl in this moment. What girl wants to go around to her friends the next day and they'd be like, "So where did you go last night?" And she goes, "Well, you know the guy who had a penis on his head? I went home with him." Nobody wants to admit that. Nobody wants to be that person. No. So you're just destroying yourself. Like, whereas if you turned up wearing, I'm trying to think of stupid outfit, well, you can vouch this.
Armbands.
I've had stupid hair colors before. I've had the bright pink mohawk where I've shaved the sides off even shorter than this, like literally wet shaved it, hair spiking up, pink mohawk. I've done the man buns that was dyed green. I've done some wacky hair colors. But here's why they all work. If somebody says, "What the fuck is that hair color?" I turn around and say, "Well, it's my job to stand out, sell tickets, promote to people. And what better way to stand out and what better way to get people to recognize that it's me and to come over to me for tickets than to have a hair color where you can see me from 400 feet away because it's fucking neon." That makes sense, and people laugh and people get in. They're like, "Oh, okay, I see what you're doing." That makes sense. If you turn up to a fancy dress outfit like this zoo party and you've just gone one stage further in the crazy like crab costume, that makes sense. People get it. It's fun. If it was a zoo party and you turn up wearing fucking Michael Jackson outfit, well, there's no leap there. That doesn't make sense. You're just weird. It's the same as nobody likes the person who's there on a student night dressed in a suit. It's like, what are you doing? Unless you can literally turn around and say, "I was just in a meeting or I just finished work. I have a reason for wearing the suit and I turned straight up." From there, unless you have a justification that makes sense, you just look weird. And it's just a case of the justification only has to work for you. Because if you have a legitimate justification and it's honest, you'll look confident when you say it. You won't look nervous. You won't look shifty. You won't be like, as you try and make up a reason. And if you're relaxed and you find it not a big deal, most other people won't find it a big deal. It's kind of that
that's fair. Because to be fair, if you do turn up to like a student night in a suit and you legitimately have just been at work, you've got to think you don't panic. Like you just literally, you know that you have this reason for doing it. So you're just kind of relaxed about it. So just use that logic and apply it to peacocking for the lack of a better term.
Yeah. Just don't peacock.
Yeah,
just dress how you want to dress. And if that makes you stand out because everyone else is in a black t-shirt, black trousers, and a black pair of Chelsea boots, and you turn up wearing a white shirt, well, I mean, yeah, you've peacocked because you've stood out, but you've just been yourself. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are better and worse ways to dress, and there are better and worse ways to dress for any given situation. But when it comes to peacocking and being ridiculously out there with some outrageous outfit, like if you turn up to an event like a nightclub in, I don't know, London, Birmingham, Manchester, one of these big cities, and you turn up to like a proper big club, and you're dressed like fucking Bruno from those Sacha Baron Cohen movies, like you don't look like you stand out in a good way. You just look weird. And it's just that thing of there's no congruence there. It's like if you're an absolutely normal person, and I don't mean normal as in people are normal, but I mean if you don't have an out there personality or you're not super kind of crazy and out there like Sacha Baron Cohen is, but you try and emulate it, it just doesn't feel right. You can see that the jigsaw pieces just aren't quite matching. So yeah, that's the issue with it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think as one final piece of closing advice is in any situation ever, unless you are at a dildo product launch, do not go anywhere with a dildo hat and necklace on.
I'm sure I will be able to, if I really wanted to, find a situation where I could wear it and make it work. But
Well,
yeah,
yeah,
no, don't do it. Like
I'm
it's really
definitely,
simple. It's like only do it if you find it funny. If you're doing it
yeah,
to get a reaction out of somebody, just don't. And that's
yeah,
the same for outfits. That's the same for the jokes you make. That's the same for the questions you ask, etc. Like, don't ask somebody
yeah,
what they do for
yeah,
a living, just so they can then say, "What about you?" And you can then show off how amazing your job is. Only ask somebody what they do for a living if you're genuinely intrigued. If you're not intrigued, don't bother fucking wasting your time asking.
yeah, yeah, because it's just a waste of both your time, man, and energy, isn't it? So,
Yeah, exactly.
on a serious note, though, I've made a little note on my tablet that we definitely need to do a podcast episode in the future where we dress you up in a dildo hat and necklace and send you out into the public so you can try and find a situation where it works.
Sure. Like, I'll do it. Yeah, post COVID, post all this stuff, we'll dress me up in a crazy outfit, and I don't know what you're trying to get me to get from it because I'm engaged, so I'm not looking to pull or
Oh, no,
anything.
no, I don't mean like that. I
But
just mean
so what outcome are you trying? Am I trying to prove that I can get to?
I want you to try and prove that that outfit can work and make you not look like a twat in a
Oh, just
given
sustain a
situation.
conversation and like approach somebody, sustain a
Yeah,
conversation, and just like get to a stage
yeah,
where it looks like they've just completely forgotten about it.
yeah,
Oh, that's doable. Yeah.
yeah. No, I'm not trying to get you laid. I think you've succeeded in that regard, considering you have a little Harry running around now. So something you touched on earlier was basically building your network and building your social circle and
Yeah.
relationships that bring value to everybody involved. How do you go about sort of determining who is going to bring you value and kind of deciding who then to spend that time with and put that energy into?
So my advice for everybody in this scenario is slightly different to how I've done it. So the way I've done it personally is been very specific and linked to my personal values, which is I want people who give value to other people. I don't want any leeches around. I want people who are fun to be around and bring something kind of intellectual, and we can have a chat and a conversation, a debate, and they have a different point of view to me on certain topics. So there's always that kind of sparring going on. I want people who are intelligent, and I want people who have at least some kind of interest that they share with me, whether that be a business interest. In this case of cool, you and me can hang out and we will talk about business and nothing else, or we're both interested in personal development or rugby, or we both want to go to the gym together, or whatever it could be. And I quite literally have kind of a list in my head, and I probably wrote it down at some point, but I have a list of like what I want the friends I have in my social group to look like in terms of I want them to be this, and have these interests. And then it was a question of when I met people, I was quite honest and open with myself when right after the fact, this person who I met, I don't know, say Friday night, this lad, um, does he bring value to my life? Yes or no? Is he the kind of person who he's fun to be around and he's always kind of upbeat and brings energy? Or is he the kind of person who I'm stood there with a group of mates and we're all going, yeah, can't wait to go out tonight. It's going to be brilliant. Like, super excited. It's going to be such a good night. And he's sat there going in the corner going, yeah, but it's raining. And he's just sucking the energy out of it. Anybody who's like that, you're not going to be kind of part of my friendship social circle. Maybe it's like a kind of a genius and you offer so much insight from a business standpoint, in which case you can be part of that network. But it's very much a case of what do they bring to the table? And that's kind of how I decide it. And the easiest way to meet those people is going out and meeting more people. If you know 10,000 people, you'll be able to filter that down to probably a fantastic 5-10 people. Whereas if you only know 12 people, you've only got 12 people to pick from. And say, for example, you specifically wanted to find somebody who's got, say, business as an interest, and you can have those things in common. The way to do that is think, well, where would I go to meet those kind of people? Or if you're trying to find somebody who's entrepreneurial minded at university, well, there's going to be certain groups you can join, there's going to be certain societies, etc. That's the place to go to find these people. If you're trying to find somebody who's very business orientated, well, you don't do a business degree, but you can find out where business degree lectures are, and you can just turn up to them for free. Like, you can just order the class, and you can just kind of meet people and talk to them, socialize, and then you can go, right, this person's great, like we can become mates that way. In the same way, if you're trying to find a girlfriend, for example, let's say you're like a devout Catholic, a devout Christian, and you don't believe in sex before marriage, and you're trying to find a girlfriend. Well, your best bet to find a girl like that who has the same values as you is probably going to be at church. You're not going to find them at the EDM drum and bass rave where everybody there is on pills and ket and having a mad one. Like, you're probably not going to find them there. So it's a case of just kind of being sensible. And my mentor gave me great advice. He phrased it really well, which is, think of it like fishing. You can turn up to the middle of the ocean with your boat and with your fishing rod and just start fishing, and hopefully you eventually find the right fish. Or you can be fucking smart about it and go, right, what fish do you want? This fish. Where does it live? Okay, go to that place. What bait does it like? Right, use that bait. You can be sensible about it, or you can just leave it to luck. Either works, but obviously one's more effective than the other.
Yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense. You mentioned a mentor. Who is that mentor, and how did you go about finding them, and what sort of lessons have you learned from them?
Okay, I've spoken to him, and he doesn't want to be ousted publicly. So I'm going to say his first name, and you're going to know exactly who I mean. His name was Adam. And he was the dating coach I referenced earlier, who I met back in Italy about 4 or 5 years ago now. Oh, bloody hell, probably about 5 or 6 years ago now. And he taught me so much, both in terms of him literally teaching me, and a lot in terms of just watching what he did. Because a lot of kind of the lessons that I now teach are things that he doesn't teach, because he hasn't even clocked on that he does it. There are certain things that he did with his mind, his tonality, and he'd shift his head slightly at certain situations, and he didn't even know he was doing it. So by me noticing that he was doing it, I was able to be like, oh, well, he's naturally doing this, and it's getting this outcome. Well, he can't teach that to anybody else because he doesn't know he's doing it. So it's one of the things that I then experimented with. I tweaked it. I kind of worked out exactly when to do it. And now it's something that I teach, for example.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense then. Yeah, that's fair enough. I know that I do know exactly who you're talking about. And I mean, as we can see from the amount of knowledge and experience you have, you've obviously learned a lot from him, as well as all the other things you've done with your life.
Oh, absolutely. It's like exactly the questions when I was asking you earlier about mentors. I reckon I could have learned everything that I currently know about dating by myself without having ever met him. But I reckon it's been, 6 years? I reckon I'd be about 25 to 30% of the way there by now. If it was purely me going out, having an idea, experimenting, seeing if it works, tweaking it, seeing if that works better, and going on every single little aspect, it would have taken me so long. Whereas being able to go, this is his advice, right? So that gives me this platform to start from. Right, I know this works. Let's tweak it slightly, see if that works better. No, it doesn't. Let's tweak it this way. Yeah, that works even better. Brilliant. It meant that what would have been, say for example, tonality. What could have been 5 years of me testing out different tonalities and things like that became like 3-4 months for me to kind of get it down to the point where it's like, okay, I've checked. There's nobody else out there talking about tonality with anything groundbreaking that's not included in what I'm coaching and what I'm teaching. So if nobody else can like people who specialize in tonality can't teach anything better, then I know I'm on the right tracks.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I like the way you're working. Right, I've got a couple of topics, and I basically want your thoughts on them. You can keep that as brief or as long as you want to. That is your choice.
Okay.
So, number one,
Rapid
pickup
fire.
artist.
You just want my go-to gut reaction?
What is your gut reaction? What is your opinion? And also, I want you to justify it.
All right. Gut reaction, pickup artists, son of a bitch. Chances are they are manipulative. Chances are they are liars. Chances are, if they're claiming to be any good, that they're probably not, or they are cheating in the way in which they do it. Don't get me wrong, there are some out there who are fucking brilliant. I have met dating coaches out there who I know for a fact are better than me. Absolutely. Fair enough. And obviously that's a term people use to describe me, and I'm not full of shit. But the vast majority of people have clocked on, well, if I just watch, for example, Harry's YouTube videos and I just repeat the same shit, well, I'm giving the same advice, so it's the same quality content. It's not, because when I give somebody advice about stand this way or tilt your head slightly or use this tonality, I can explain why. I can explain how it works. I can talk about the specific chemicals in the brain and the biology and the evolutionary psychology behind it. Whereas your justification for why standing up straight works is, oh, I watched it in a YouTube video and it works. And he said it works, therefore it must work. And it's like, that's bollocks. So if anyone's out there trying to learn from a pickup artist or a dating coach, kind of the same advice you had earlier, which is, first of all, do they actually legitimately live a life you want to live? Because if they're out there, I don't know, sleeping around and sleeping with a different girl every single night, and you don't want that, don't bother learning from them. At the same time, if they cannot explain why something works, if they're like, trust me, it just works, they can't explain it, then they don't understand it. If you're not able to explain something and teach something, you don't know it. That's kind of my fundamental mindset on it. Go on, next.
Yeah, I've definitely heard that one before. I think it was actually my chemistry teacher in year 9 that said if you can't explain it to a 4-year-old in 1 or 2 sentences, you don't understand it properly.
Yeah, I like that.
So that's kind of what I've not lived by, but I use that as a reference. Right, next one. Pick up lines.
Terrible, pointless, waste of time. Should be deleted from speech. Nobody should ever use the phrase, ever.
Yeah, I can agree with that, and I kind of saw.
Do you want the justification why, or are you happy with that?
No, I think I can agree with that without the justification. I think anybody who has ever used a pickup line will understand and know why they are the bottom of the bin, basically.
No, because the fact you've said that means we disagree. It means we've got different justifications.
Oh, okay then. Screw it. Let's go for it. What's your justification?
Everything is a pickup line. If you say something and then pick the person up, it was a pickup line, even if what you said was hello. So whether you're saying hello or you're going, did it hurt when you fell from heaven? Or whatever the fuck, whatever line you decide to use, makes no difference. It's all about the delivery. It's all about how you do it. It's all about whether you're adding value or taking value away, your body language, your pre-selection, everything else. So everything is a pickup line. Nothing is a pickup line. It's kind of irrelevant. You can definitely use the cheesy ones, and they can be really successful, and they can be brilliant, and they can be really funny, depending on how you deliver them. Or you can walk up to somebody and go, hey, and that can work really well, depending on how you deliver it.
Okay, yeah, that's fair then. That actually makes a lot more sense than what I was thinking, to be fair. Because everything is a pickup line when you think about it. I was thinking the stereotypical cheesy, oh, did it hurt when you fall from heaven, like the example you used? Because every time I hear that, it just makes me want to scratch my eyes out. Or scratch my ears off more appropriately, because I don't have to hear that. Ugh.
But could I deliver that in a way in which you would see it and go, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, that works.
You definitely could. I think one way to go about it would actually, for me personally, that would make me think, you know what, fair enough, is delivering it in a way that actually mocks that in and of itself, like people who do it seriously.
Yeah, self-deprecating about it.
Just going down the route of, that would work for me.
Yeah, so it's all about the way. It's all
Not to
about the
put me on.
delivery. It's nothing to do with the content of what you say.
Yeah, fair enough then. Okay, yeah, in that case, I do actually agree with what you're saying. I just suppose I didn't look at it like that. Okay, next topic. Dating apps like Bumble and Tinder. What do you think?
Great. I don't really have an opinion of them.
Yeah.
It's one of those. If I was talking to an 18-year-old and he said, should I just stick to Tinder and Bumble or should I also be talking to people in clubs? My answer would be, you have to be doing approaching in real life as well. Just because at the end of the day, you can develop texting game, you can develop skills for texting and communicating by text and email and phone and Snapchat and video calling and stuff as well. But that's a very different skill set to your body language, your tonality, your posture, the cadence of which you speak, whether you calm down or slow down, whether you lean in or lean out. All these things matter, and you're only going to get practice doing those in person. So it's one of those things where I have no issue with them. I've got lots of clients who've asked for advice from them. I've given my advice and it's worked well. And it's one of those things. It's the way I see it is it's like an extra tool to put in your belt. It's one of those, it's great to have, but I think fundamentally you do need to work on the interpersonal, in-person social skills first. And then you can use Tinder and Bumble, etc., to kind of support that and make your life even easier. It's almost kind of like master it and then use the cheat code. Don't just start using cheats from the beginning because you'll never get good at the game.